Hi, Magnetic Feminine ladies. Welcome to today's live stream. I'm Chelsea Jarvis. I'm a relationship coach and mentor, and I'm the founder of Magnetic Femininity. So, welcome to this live stream. I want to talk about being too much. This is a really common fear that a lot of women experience in love, and I want to share a bit of my own experience with that, my own personal experience. And mostly I want to talk about how this can be your superpower in love. And so, this live stream is going to, hopefully help you look at dating differently. But I also aim to help you if you've been in a long-term relationship, whether it's for a year or 20 years or more, and maybe examine how you can actually use this in your long-term love to really deepen and connect on a more profound level than maybe you're accustomed to, maybe than you realized was possible. So welcome. Feel free to comment, and you know what, I'm actually going to bring up this live stream on my laptop in front of me as well, because unfortunately, sometimes the comments don't show up on my phone, and I want to be able to see if anybody is talking to me during this live stream. And I'm actually going to go ahead and tag everyone to let everyone know that I'm live. Come on, there we go. All right. So, and feel free to tag anybody that you know who would benefit from this live stream as well. If they're not in the group, then it will send them an invitation to join the group. But obviously, if they're in the group, they'll see that right away. So, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been told or made to feel like you're too much in a relationship with a man? Maybe like too needy, too out there, too emotional, too much this, too much that, too intense. I know I have. And a lot of the time, it wasn't even that they verbally told me you're too much, but it was the feeling. It was the being made to feel like I was too much for having needs. My expectations were too much. My emotions were too much. That was a really big one for me. But there was something inherently wrong with me, and that I was the problem for being too much. That was the feeling that I got. And, as far as romantic relationship goes, this started when I was a teenager. And, I liked a boy who said he liked me, and he didn't want to be seen in public with me. I later found out why. It was because he had a girlfriend. So not a great first romantic experience in love. But also like always feeling like I liked him more than he liked me. And I experienced that several times in love in my younger years, where I constantly felt like I was dating guys who were out of my league. That was what it felt like. And I felt like I had to walk on eggshells or tiptoe and kind of suppress my needs or play it cool, make it seem like I was cool and detached and totally fine with whatevs. And that was kind of my dating MO for a really long time, because anytime I dared to kind of express affection or love or a need, God forbid, it was usually shot down, and I was usually made to feel like I was the one who was asking too much. So I'd love for you to let me know in the comments if you can relate to that, if that's something that you've experienced, whether it's in your current relationship or in a past relationship. But I know for me at a young age, that really marked me deeply, and that really impacted my outlook on love. It impacted my outlook on who I'm allowed to be in love. And so I really dimmed myself, and I kind of became a chameleon in love for a very long time, where I tried to be what I thought they wanted. And this was, in my 20s. And it was a lot of patterns that I had to break after my divorce. And, you know, the man that I married, he's a really good man. He's a great father. And, you know, I was only 23 when I met him. And in hindsight, I'm able to see that a big reason why, I do, obviously I loved him, but I really believe that a big part of the appeal was that he felt very safe, in the sense that I knew he wouldn't go anywhere. And it's just, it was kind of like, I feel like I'm not dating, this sounds horrible because I don't want to put him down as a human. Like, he's a wonderful human. But there was a part of me that felt like I needed to be on the pedestal, right? There was a part of me that felt like I need to choose somebody who puts me on a pedestal because that is what feels safest. That felt like the least amount of risk of being abandoned. And I was right. You know, the thing is, he probably never would have left me our entire life. And the sad part is that I eventually realized that it's not enough to be chosen by somebody who puts me on a pedestal. I have to have that same desire for them. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So for my ladies who are dating, that's something to keep in mind. But all this to say is that I really spent a lot of time kind of trying to not have too many needs in love, because I believed that having needs, or my emotions, having a lot of emotions, was repulsive, and that no man would want someone with this many needs and emotions. And I'm a very emotional person. I'm very emotional. I'm very in touch with my emotions. And, you know, that was a point of conflict with my ex-husband, is that he didn't understand all of the emotions that I had. Like, and sometimes I would have pretty dramatic emotions, and especially before I went through a lot of healing, I didn't really know how to navigate those emotions. So that made it even worse. It made like the emotional highs and lows just seem, he genuinely asked me if I thought I might be bipolar, because he just didn't understand the intensity of my emotions. And of course, like, not that there's anything wrong with being bipolar, because there isn't, but I felt insulted by that. Again, not because there's something wrong with being bipolar, but because it felt like it was pathologizing my emotions and making it wrong to have a lot of emotions. So just so you kind of understand a little bit where I'm coming from with my personal experience of feeling too much. And so while I was dating after my divorce, my husband and I split up in 2019, and I met my current partner in 2022. So there was about a 3-year time period where I was, going through the divorce process and all of that, but I was also doing a lot of healing. I was dating with the purpose of healing. As if you've been in my world for a while, you know how I teach my dating process. It's it's very integrated with a healing process. So during that time, I had all of those wounds up in my face of like having to learn how to allow my emotions to be fully present and be brave enough to show them, even though there may be some men who see that as too much. And this was a liberating truth that really set me free, is that, like, yes, we want to learn communication skills. We want to learn the difference between unloading all our baggage on someone versus just being, having a lot of emotions. That is valid. And also, my emotions don't make me too much. Emotions are, they're an inherent part of who I am. They're an inherent part of who everybody is to a degree. There are some people who are more connected with their emotions, but everybody has them. And so in learning how to really take ownership of that, positive ownership of that, that gave me a lot of courage to be fully myself. And so by the time I met my partner, I had gotten to a point where I felt safe. safe enough being fully myself, not necessarily 100% comfortable being myself at all times, because there were still some areas where it took a bit of intentional practice and intentional choice. But I felt safe enough within myself to know that I can be all of who I am, and trust that if it's too much for somebody, I will be okay. I will be okay. Even if it hurts, even if it leads to rejection, I will be okay. And so that was a really key thing. And so when I met my partner, and there were some key moments where I had to make a very intentional choice to be myself. And one of the first ones that really came up and smacked me in the face was when he asked me, what am I looking for? Like, what am I looking for in dating? And I told him, I'm looking for my love story. I'm looking to get married again someday. And that felt really vulnerable and very cheesy to say that. And this happened to be during a text conversation, and I typed it out, and I was like gonna backspace it or delete the text. And I was like, no, but this is the truth. Like, this is what I want. And it would be disingenuous of me to backspace it and type it and try to type out something more palatable when this is the God's honest truth. This is what I'm looking for, and I'm really not available for anything else. And so in this like 3 second, sometimes our minds work very, very fast, right? So through this few seconds of mental processing, I was like, no, but it's the truth. I'm just going to send it and trust that, like, if he's weirded out by it, if it doesn't work for him, then I just trust that he'll let me know, or, we'll discover that we're not compatible in what we're looking for, and that'll be it. And I'll be bummed about it for a day or two, and I'll be fine ultimately, because this was very, very early on. It was like in the first few days that we were talking. So pardon me, I've got a frog in my throat this morning. And so of course I typed that out and I sent it, and there was that like, oh God, I was just really vulnerable. What's he gonna say? And he responded with, I forget the exact words he said, but he was so happy to hear that. And he said, that's what I want to. Like, and he has been looking for a woman who wants that kind of romance and wants that kind of passion. And so in that moment, like, being authentic, and by the way, that confession, I guess you could say, or that sharing exactly what I want, that was 100%, that was so magnetic to him, because he was looking for the same thing, but it would have been too much for a lot of other people. It would have been too much. It would have been way too much for a lot of other people. They would have either ghosted, they would have maybe made a joke, or found some way to deflect, or even just been like, oh, that's cool. But they wouldn't have been able to really meet me there. And so, that was a big moment where I realized, like, where it really landed for me. Okay, with this man, more than I've ever done, I'm going to be 100% myself with him, and trust that it's going to be not just enough, but it's going to be actually what draws him to me if he's the right man for me. And so there were many, many more moments over the course of, our dating and the early days. But even now, about 2.5 years in, there are still moments where being myself, like being really all of who I am, is an intentional choice, because my instinct wants to hold it back. My instinct wants to pretend I don't have needs, pretend that I'm just cool and fine, and if you are like me and it's, maybe a little hard to be really upfront and totally own your needs and your desires and your boundaries and like all of these things that make you you, then in a relationship, in a long-term love, there's only so much closeness you're going to be able to feel with a partner. So when you're in a long-term relationship, this becomes more and more evident over time, because at first, you've got like all the love chemicals that are making you feel all the closeness and all the bond and all that. That's great. That's super fun. But over time, you're going to start to feel more distance and walls if you don't have the emotional capacity to be fully intimate with yourself. So how do I define intimacy? Intimacy to me is the ability to see, know, and love all parts of yourself without judgment, which doesn't necessarily mean just letting them go wild in your life and taking the wheel and doing whatever they want. It's not about enabling all parts of ourselves, but it's about seeing, knowing, and loving all parts of ourselves as valid. And when we do that, we close the emotional gap with ourselves. And therefore, when we have closed the emotional gap with ourselves, we have dropped the walls within ourselves, we allow a level of closeness that wasn't possible with those walls. Because the thing is when you have walls with yourself, you will have walls with a partner as well. There's no way around that. Dropping your walls with your partner requires dropping the walls with yourself. And when you judge yourself as too much, because someone told you you were too much, because someone made you feel like you were too much, that creates walls that now impact how close you will allow someone to come to you. Because there are parts of them, there are parts of yourself that you don't want them to see because you yourself don't even want to see. You're judging those parts. You're saying these parts are too much. Can't show that. Don't want to look at it. And so those walls are going to keep a partner at a distance in a way that really there's nothing they can do anything about. And this is this is a huge pain point for men. And I shouldn't say that because this is universal. This is a human thing. But let's, speak from our perspective. When we do this, our partners experience the frustration of not being able to get close to us because they can feel that the minute there's a part of you that's scared or triggered and that wall goes up. And sometimes that wall going up looks like picking a fight or running away, but sometimes it also looks like trying to please them and, putting on a version of yourself that you think is more palatable to them. That is also a version of closing off. So it's, frustrating for our partner when they know that they're not really getting to the core of us. And, the reverse can also be true as well when there are parts of your partner who they judge, they, are scared to look at. It also is true that they will keep you at a distance when they're not willing to look at those parts of themselves. And when, maybe the walls go up or the defenses come up, whenever those parts come into play. So it's the walls within ourselves that we need to break down before we are focusing on the walls between us and a partner, because we're only going to allow them to get as close to us as we're willing to get close to us. So when we're judging these parts of us as too much, like for me, I'll use the too emotional thing as an example, because this was a big one for me. I always felt like my emotions were a burden to men. That was what I learned. And I don't think my dad ever would have intended to make me feel that way, but he's just a very logical, rational, mentally driven man. And there's nothing wrong with that, but he didn't really understand emotions when I was growing up. He's a lot better now. He's still uncomfortable with it, and I can feel that. And that's okay. But when I was growing up, didn't seem to really know what to do with my emotions and kind of always just defaulted to logic and rational thinking and all this. And, so he didn't know how to validate my emotions. He didn't know how to do that. And I don't blame him for that. How would he have known that? Especially looking at, his father. Like, there's no way he would have ever learned how to do that back then. So I don't judge him for that. But that is the reality of the environment that I grew up with, is that my emotions always felt like they were just too much, like there was no room for them. And so, of course, that carried into my romantic life, always feeling like my emotions were a burden and too much. And I just didn't really know. I never really had men who knew what to do with emotions in my life. So the story that I got was my emotions are too much and I need to tone it down. I need to dial it down a few notches. And that caused me to do things like shut down when I was in my marriage and I had a problem or, something that wasn't working for me. I would often shut down and kind of close off and not really talk to him about it because I didn't know how to talk to him about it. I didn't know. I felt like I was just being extra for having a problem. I felt like if I was going to talk to him about it, I was just going to rock the boat and it would be my fault and I should never have brought it up, that sort of thing. And I don't blame my ex-husband for that. At that time, he didn't know how to deal with emotions either. So it was just kind of a repeat of the pattern in my life, right? But that recurring pattern, the way that it manifested in my marriage was that whenever I was feeling upset about something, I bottled it up and I tried to deal with it on my own. I didn't let my partner in on it because I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the communication tools. I also was still learning how to sit with myself in it. Because I didn't know how to effectively sit with myself and actually process my emotions, it ended up just getting bottled up. And so, until it exploded, until it ended in divorce, basically. That's an overly simplified version, but that was one of my shortcomings in my marriage that I was able to learn and grow from, was that understanding that this idea that I'm too much, it had led me to shut down and bottle stuff up because I didn't want to rock the boat. I didn't want it to turn into a fight. I didn't want it to turn into me. No, it was more that I didn't want to feel invalidated. I was like, if I say it out loud, then that just gives someone a chance to invalidate me and then I'm going to feel even worse. So I might as well just bottle it up, not say anything. And I ended up sinking down into a depression for a little while. And, it probably didn't have to go that far. If I had had the resources or the wherewithal to know what to do differently, there would have been things that I could do. But at that time, I didn't know. So it is what it is. But when you build a relationship with these parts of yourself that you no longer judge as too much. Like my emotions, I fully own. I'm a super emotional person. And some days those emotions are like, yay, like life is beautiful. I could cry. I love my life so much. And sometimes my heart hurts for the world. Especially, I'm getting emotional right now. This is just who I am. I'm a really emotional person. My eyes get glassy just thinking about the pain in the world. I get emotional thinking about my kids. I'm a really emotional person. And so when I take ownership of that, that did help me date more effectively, but it also deepens my current relationship because now when my partner asks how my day was, then, I'm not going to be just saying, oh, it was good. I'm going to be telling him what touched me that day, for better or for worse. Some days it might be I sat outside and felt the sun on my face and just couldn't believe how lucky I was in that moment. I felt amazing. Or it might be I broke down and I sobbed. Like, because of the state of the world. Like, whew. I think I also maybe like on that time of the month too, so everything just feels like it's right at the surface. So everything does feel a bit slightly more raw right now. So you can see like my emotions are right at the surface at the moment. And this is also something that happens. It can happen when it's that time of the month for us. There can be certain circumstances where everything just kind of feels heightened, and that's okay. That's okay. So when my partner asks me how my day was and I tell him what emotionally touched me that day, what, you know, and I'm not holding back these parts of me that I used to judge as too much. And, you know, even my expressions of love for him, there would have been men in the past that would have felt like that was too much, well, you're too intense. But I fucking love this man. Like, I love him so much, and I don't want to have to hold that back. And I wanted a partner who wouldn't find that too intense. And so, yes, there is a part of me that sometimes rears its head and says like, oh, you're being a little extra. Like, does your Facebook account really need another photo of you two? Yes. Yes, because I love this man so much. He's a huge part of my life, and like I love showing us together. I love photos of us together. And so that part of me, when I stopped judging it as too much, that allowed a flood of intimacy in my relationship, because he's able to meet me there. But he wouldn't be able to meet me there if I wasn't able to meet me there, right? He could show up as someone who's completely available for intimacy, but if I wasn't able to meet him there, we would be a mismatch, right? So I had to, and I still continue to have to be brave and intentional at times when it comes to actually bearing my soul and bearing like who I am, and not thinking like, oh, it's too much. I shouldn't share this. Like, oh, like last night, this is such a silly example, but last night at like 10:30 or 10:40 at night, I don't know why, but my smoke detector just kind of started randomly beeping, like beep, 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 like every minute or so. And, you know, I'm here alone in my apartment, and I have some PTSD from the sounds of alarms that's still not completely 100% gone. And so my whole body just like shivers, and like I just felt the trauma coming back up again. I actually disconnected the smoke detector. It was still making the noise, and so I went and put it in my car. Like, so I don't know, it might be still beeping every minute in my car. I have no idea. I haven't dealt with it yet. But right then my partner texted me, and I was like, oh gosh, I just need to hear your voice right now, because I feel like my whole body just feels like it's in like trauma response mode. And so I needed to hear his voice. I needed to just talk to him for a few minutes. Not even about that in particular. I just needed to hear his voice so that I could breathe. And, you know, that would help me regulate. And in the past, that would have felt like it was too much to ask. That would have felt like, come on, you're being a little silly. It's a smoke detector. But the reality is that my body still has remnants of a trauma that reminds me of. And in that moment, I was able to lean on my partner, and I was able to let him just do something for me that was not hard for him. All I needed was to hear him talk. I just needed to hear his voice. I just needed to hear him. I just needed his presence. That was all I needed. And allowing him to do that for me, rather than trying to be hyper independent or say like, you know, shut that part of myself down and be like, just deal with it yourself. That created a little moment of intimacy where I was like, oh, I was able to just feel grateful, like, oh, thank you for this man. And it's in little moments like that we get to let our partner show up for us, because he probably wants to. And when we just are willing to own what we need or what would really help us in that moment. Like if he wasn't available, I would have found a way to regulate myself. Like I have all the tools, I could have done it, but he happened to text me in that moment. So why wouldn't I reach out to him and ask for something very simple that he can do that would have a huge impact on helping me regulate? So that's like a small little silly example, but it is something that in the past I would have felt like I was being too needy for asking, because I felt like my emotions were too much. I felt like I should be able to deal with this on my own. So being too much can be your superpower in your relationship, because like I said, the more you drop those walls with yourself and you stop judging yourself as too much, the more intimacy that you can allow. And now some of you in long-term relationships, maybe you're listening to this and think like, but my partner's not really capable of intimacy. And what I will say to that is, while I can't speak specifically about specific men, what I have found generally in my work and in my experience with men is that when we create emotional safety within ourselves, that emotional safety tends to radiate toward them, and they start to open up in ways that you've maybe never even seen before, maybe that they've never even seen. And so I've experienced many times having clients that are just very surprised at what their husbands are actually revealing to them. And like, I've never seen him be this vulnerable before. I've never seen him take ownership for his actions in this way before. And where that started was with her not judging the parts of herself that she had been judging as too much, but rather saying like, this is part of me, and I'm in charge of how I express that part of me. Obviously, we're not looking to express irresponsibly by like dumping our stuff on everybody. And that actually brings me to an important nuance. There is a couple of versions of too much that, okay. So the first version of too much is a judgment that's placed on us by somebody who doesn't have the capacity for all of who we are. They don't have the capacity to meet us where we are emotionally or whatever. They don't have the capacity. And so they judge you as being too much. That's one version of too much that we often see. And too much can also be when we are maybe misjudging the boundaries of a connection and we start unloading our emotional baggage onto somebody and kind of putting them in a place where they're pressured to fix it or to hold it for us. That is another version of too much, that sometimes it is our responsibility to look at how we're expressing our emotions. However, your emotions themselves are never too much. And oh, a kitty, I see a kitty outside. What I have consistently found is that it doesn't matter how intense my emotions are, they are never too much, as long as I'm expressing them in a healthy way, as long as I'm taking ownership of them. Oh, let me actually just check. I haven't checked comments for a while. Let me go back into my group and see if there's, oh, hi, Taylor. Yeah, so by the way, I can't see comments on my phone, but I am kind of checking periodically on my computer, so feel free to comment. What was I saying? So yeah, too much, sometimes it's because someone just judged our authentic expression, and sometimes it's because our emotions were really big and we didn't know how to express them in a healthy way, so they came out in an unhealthy way and ended up causing damage to our relationships. Sometimes that can happen. So it is still really important to have relationship tools and communication skills and emotional intelligence and things like that. Those things all still matter. But the emotions you feel are never too much. They're always valid. And when we know how to self-validate, that means that we can express all of those emotions, not from a place of like needing them to validate me, validate me, but rather from a place of simply showing what we're feeling and allowing them to meet us there. And, to come close and not fear our emotions, not fear that they're going to get, clawed across the face by our emotions. I've been really angry in certain moments with my partner, and I've worked really hard to not express my anger in a way that I will regret later. That has been something that's been really important to me, because as I said earlier in this live stream, my tendency was to bottle it up in the past. My tendency was to bottle it up and say nothing. So I didn't learn how to say it properly. I didn't learn how to say it in a way that wouldn't damage the relationship. So in my mind, there was this black and white thinking of, if I say something, I'm going to damage the relationship because I didn't have the skills, or I bottle it up and say nothing and pray it blows over. Those were the two options that I was aware of. So I always chose the latter, to bottle it up, because I mistakenly thought that would do less damage to the relationship. Once I developed communication skills and the emotional intelligence and awareness to understand what's happening in me and to drop the walls within me, then a third option became available, which is, yes, express the fullness of my emotions, but do it in a way that doesn't cause damage to the relationship, but that actually allows him to come closer to me when I'm feeling really emotional, when I'm feeling really angry even. Like, it is a hugely underrated skill for someone who's as emotional as I am, to be able to feel so deeply and so intensely and be able to express that in a way that still invites intimacy rather than pushing it away. So if you're like me, I would love for you to let me know in the comments if you've experienced that, if that's maybe a revelation that you're having right now, is that you're realizing that there's been these like two choices. I can either bottle it up or I can say it, but it's not going to be pretty. But there's a third option. There's a third option available. And that third option is where your too muchness becomes your superpower. That third option where you have created this level of this relationship of intimacy with yourself first, and then you are extending that relationship to include your partner. Everything, like all the emotions that you thought were too much, all of a sudden, they are a source of understanding. They're a compass. They are guiding you toward real intimacy. And there is really nothing better than being really loved and cherished and understood when you are being 100% yourself. Being loved and cherished and understood when you're wearing a mask, when you're not fully showing all of who you are, it feels safe in the sense that it's like, it's not rejection, at least. But there is really no feeling that's quite like you just were so vulnerable and they met you there and they understood and they didn't put the wall up or they didn't deflect. They actually saw you and were like, oh, I get it. I get that. That makes sense. That's valid. Like, it's a feeling that's difficult to beat, and it's a feeling that you can only have when you are tapping into those parts of you that you have been thinking of as too much. So let me know in the comments if that's resonating with you. If you have any questions, if you understand where I'm coming from here. And before I wrap up, I just want to also make sure that I'm not skipping over anything that I wanted to talk about. But what I can say is like all of these little micro moments where you're exposing the parts of you that you have thought of as too much, and you're allowing your partner to shine their light on them. Oh, hi, Erica. I'm so glad it totally resonated. All of these parts of us that we're now showing our partner, not forcing onto them, not dumping our baggage onto them, but simply like almost like opening our hearts and showing with no pressure, but just raw vulnerability. There is a level of intimacy that can just continue to upward spiral and increase and deepen over time, because a really, really beautiful truth about long-term relationships is that you will actually never know everything about each other. There are thoughts and feelings that you have that you've told maybe your best friends or your mom or strangers online or your coach or whomever that your partner doesn't know about. And the same is true for your partner. There are sides of each other that you haven't fully shown each other. And that's always going to be the case. Because you're evolving. You're always having new experiences that are, making you think, making you see things differently. It's always going to be true that you don't know 100% of everything about each other. And so that means that when you learn these skills that I'm talking about, you have the opportunity to create the kind of relationship that just continues to evolve together over time, where you're continually discovering new thoughts, new perspectives, new fears, new desires about each other, new everything. Not new everything, but you're going to continue to evolve as a couple together. And one of the things we love most about the beginning of a relationship is that feeling of discovering something new, right? And there is so much newness that gets left on the table in a long-term relationship, because people kind of get to a point where we think we just know everything about each other. And while you do know a lot about each other, you'll never know everything. And that doesn't have to be a defeating thought, like, oh God, it's scary, we're never going to fully know each other. No, it gets to be like, we're never going to fully know each other. So that means there's always going to be something new. I personally don't ever want to get to the point where my partner just looks at me and sees me as incapable of growth. Like, oh, just no, I know Chelsea. She'll never change. This is just how she is. She's never going to change. I never want my partner to think about me like that. Because I see myself as so multifaceted, and I would feel very unseen if I ever heard him talk about me like that. So I also recognize that he's also very multifaceted, and sometimes there's just things that come up in conversation that it's like, little nuances that I never knew he felt that way, or experiences that shaped his perspectives that I didn't know about. And there's always more to discover when we're actually looking through this lens, and not seeing anything about ourselves as too much, but also not seeing anything about our partner as too much. Too much is perfect for the right person. Everything that I am with my partner, the level of affection that I want to show this man, and the level of love and care and emotion that I express with this man, it would be too much for a lot of people, because I'm not the right person for them. And because, there were certainly some cases where the way I was expressing it was also maybe not conducive to the kind of intimacy that I wanted. But you have such an opportunity here. So if you're in a long-term relationship, one of the most beautiful things is that it gets to continually evolve, and you get to evolve together when you're willing to show your too muchness, and you're willing to own everything that, the too much parts of you, everything that you've thought that was too much. I would love for you to share with me in the comments, what is it about you that you feel is too much? Okay, let me see this question here. This is an intense question, but what about situations where it really is too much? I have a condition that causes neuroinflammation of the brain that has been untreatable. It makes me feel very depressed, and I sometimes cry uncontrollably when it flares. What's too much about that? See, this is perspective. I don't see that as too much because crying uncontrollably doesn't scare me. And there's a lot of people that, you know, especially if I understand that, you know, you've got a condition that, you know, that certainly inflames that. Like, I personally would look at you and just be like, oh, like she needs something right now. Like, she's going through something and maybe she just needs me to sit with her and just let it be okay. She's going through something in this moment and just needs me. So I'm curious what's too much about that. And, you know, maybe in hearing me say that, maybe you're realizing that that you've been made to feel that it's too much. But, yeah, there's nothing about that I'm like, oh, you're right, that would be too much. It's just, oh, like you've got a condition that causes neuroinflammation, and sometimes that affects you emotionally and causes you to cry. I think it's helpful for a partner to understand that. I think like that way they may not, you know, it would probably help them to not take it personally and not feel like they did something wrong if maybe that's not what's happening. But I look at that and I don't see that as too much at all. I see that as just something that, yeah, you'd want to share with your partner. I think what you were saying resonates, and my husband treats me like you said, as in he treats you like, just kind of sits with you and just recognizes that you're going through something. Is that what you're saying? I hope that's what you're saying, because that would be wonderful. Because yeah, and you know, I've also, like with my partner, you know, we obviously, everybody has their own traumas, my partner included. And one of my partners sorry, not one of my partners. I was reading the comment and messed up my words. So I think what is too much is when nothing helps. Like, there is no solution can make a man feel helpless and traumatized. Okay, so this is a great question. When nothing helps, sometimes like just them being there helps. Like, I think what you mean when you're saying that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what I'm hearing you say is that when nothing helps, you mean when nothing makes it stop. And what if that's not, like, what if making it stop doesn't need to be the priority, but it's really just about, like, I'm going through something and I don't know how long it'll last. But it's just a matter of making you feel loved through it, whether it lasts 5 minutes or 5 days or however long it takes, I don't know. But I think the reframe here is that he is helping you. Even that he might not be able to make it stop, but making it stop, why, like, that might not need to be the goal. But it's more just about making you feel loved through it. No relief of brain symptoms. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, like, if that's an illness, like, I assume that you're getting the medical care that you need and you're doing what's within your power in that respect. But when episodes kind of kick in, it's more just about loving you through it. And maybe it doesn't have to be like, if he's not able to make it stop, that doesn't mean he's not helping you, right? Because I'm guessing that just him being there with you through it and, you know, not judging you for it and just, you know, maybe bringing you some tissues or giving you a hug or whatever it is you need to feel loved in that moment. My guess is that does help you. It's just that it doesn't make it stop, but it helps you in the sense that you feel loved through it, right? So I think that's kind of the reframe here that you might even want to share with him, is that, you know, if he's feeling helpless, if he's feeling like, I'm powerless to make it stop, you can tell him, I know that, like, you think that you're not doing anything because it's still coming out, but you just being here, it does help me. Like it actually means the world to me, just that you're loving me through it. That in itself, just because it's not making it stop, does not mean that it's not helping. It's helping me so much, and it makes me feel so taken care of when you just sit here with me, or when you bring me tissues, or a drink of water, or whatever I might need in that moment. So I think that would be a great thing to communicate to him, and really share that he's helping you more than he realizes. Because I think that is a very common thing with men, is they want to fix, right? They want to fix it. They want to see an instant result. And if they don't see the result that they're trying to achieve, they think they're not doing anything. And he is doing something. He is providing something really valuable for you. So I think he would love that if you communicated that. So, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for commenting that. So if you're in a long-term relationship and you want to really develop these types of skills, where you can drop the walls within yourself, where you can stop judging these parts of yourself, where you can stop looking at the different emotions and all of these things, the stories and all the mess of emotions that we have, because they are messy. And you can actually start just being them and expressing them in a way that really gets through to your partner. Not even gets through, because that implies that you're like trying to get through to him, but just rather like opening your heart and showing him and inviting him in, and creating a deeper level of intimacy than you ever have experienced together, because now it's starting from within you. Then I really, really would love to see you in my I Do and Beyond program. So I Do and Beyond is a 9-week program. We're starting in about a month. And this is going to be a 9-week experience where we're working together on, yes, dropping those walls within yourself, so that you become, you have a larger capacity for intimacy. Those walls that you're dropping within yourself, you start to allow your partner to see more of you. And you will be absolutely shocked at the different response that you get from your partner when you're simply showing who you are, rather than trying to get him to see, trying to get him to understand you. It is a completely different energy. And creating a foundation for the kind of love that you do get to just be discovering each other for decades to come, and building that friendship, building a really, really solid relationship, but that also still feels fun, that you still feel like you married your best friend. And by the way, you don't have to be married to participate in this program. This program is for women who are in long-term committed relationships, whether you're married or not. Maybe you plan to get married, maybe you never actually want to tie the knot officially, that's totally fine. But this is for women who are with their person, like you're in a committed relationship, you intend to be together forever, or whatever that means for you. And you want it to be the absolute best it can be. Whether you're in a time where you're feeling more distant, things are feeling strained, or maybe things are good and you just want to make it even better. You just want to see how great it can get. Or maybe you're in the first year or two of your relationship and you want to set a really solid foundation so that you don't have to wait for things to dip, to go sour before you start really proactively working on things. So let me tell you, it is certainly a lot easier when we do this work proactively, rather than kind of trying to come back from maybe years of increasing distance. It's not impossible to come back from years of increasing distance. I've helped women do it. But if you're in a position where that hasn't happened yet, then even better. So it's a 9-week coaching program. You'll get weekly coaching with me. There's new modules dropping every week. There's, sorry, I'm getting a text from my kid's dad. So yeah, the weekly coaching calls with me, weekly modules. There's also going to be a group chat where you can get your questions answered. You're going to have tons of resources to be able to really dive deep on what is going to help you the most specifically. You're going to get plenty of opportunities for customized support. And for the next 5 people who join, you're actually also going to get a relationship RX call with me. So we can do that this week or next week. So you can jump in straight away. We can make a plan of, how we can deepen your intimacy, how we can maybe remove some of the roadblocks that have been in the way. Whatever it is that you need, we can customize the support to reflect that. And so that way you can jump in right away and start getting a running start on the work in the program, so that when we start on June 9th, you'll already have a running start. And so if you want to learn more about this program, I'm going to go ahead and plug the link in the comments here. I don't have the link ready yet. That was disorganized of me. Okay, here we go. Plugging it. I do. And beyond. There we go. So the investment for this program is $9.97 at the moment. It will be going up, but right now that is the investment. And there is a 3-month payment plan. So if that works better for you, then you can absolutely pay over the course of a few months. And this will change the trajectory of your relationship forever. There are daily practices that you can implement. A really cool thing that I've added with this program that I haven't done before is I've actually created a document where there are 3 daily practices that you can choose from to actually implement the work in the program, rather than it just being something that you mentally receive and you cognitively understand the information. But I'm actually giving you ways on a daily basis to implement it, so that this becomes weaved into your daily life. And that is a huge part of this program, is that it is a lot of implementation. And so that's why this is really ideal for women who are already in long-term committed relationships, so that you can implement it right away, rather than this being the type of program where you can take it for future reference. So if you're not in a relationship at this time, I do have dating programs that would be amazing for you, or, dating courses and such. But this program is really for the woman who is already in a solid, long-term committed relationship, because we're going to be taking a lot of very tangible steps to connect with your partner, to connect with yourself, and to create the foundation for a really, really rock solid relationship that can withstand whatever life might throw your way. Because the reality is that when you're with someone for a long time, it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. And that doesn't mean it has to be, ugly, but creating the kind of relationship that is a sanctuary that you can turn to no matter what's happening, instead of another mental load, instead of, something else that exhausts you or drains you in your life. And, teaching you these practices and these ways of relating that will create an upward spiral over time, and that you will have lifetime access to, you, so you can always come back to and kind of go through it again. Sometimes we need to refresh ourselves and remind ourselves. So if you want to learn more about the program, I put the link in the comments. Like I said, the next 5 people to join, including on the payment plan, the next 5 people to join will get a free relationship RX session with me, which we can do this week or next week. We can do it really soon, so that you get a running start. And there's plenty of stuff for you to dig into between now and our start date, which is June 9th. So you will have plenty of ways to start really deepening together until then. So this program is for you, the woman. It is not like a couples program. However, there will be things that you can do with your partner's support. There will be ways that you can include your partner in some of these practices, because, many of you will have partners who are supportive of that, and who will probably be really thrilled that you're doing a program like this, because it's, really prioritizing your relationship. So I'm sure many of you will have partners who will be thrilled to know that you're that you're doing this and they'll want to participate in some way. But the focus of the program is you, the woman, and your well-being and your needs and your boundaries. And I'm going to teach you how to do that in a way that that really draws your partner in and makes him feel very valued in the relationship as well, because we don't want it to be unbalanced. But this is going to be a really, really magical experience. And I'm so, so excited. I'm so proud of what I'm creating. So if you have any questions and would like to know if this is right for you, if you want to share a bit about your situation with me, then you can feel free to send me a DM and tell me a bit about you. Tell me a bit about your relationship if you want me to share if this program would be a good fit for you or not. And one thing I promise, I will always be honest, because I don't want to sell people something that's not for them. So you can absolutely ask me, describe your situation. If you're not sure this is for you, feel free to DM me and we can talk about it. We can absolutely have a conversation. So thank you so much for watching this live stream. I really hope that I get to see you in the program, because this is going to be absolutely incredible. I've been having women ask me for a while, because I've been focused so much on dating programs. I've been having women ask me for a while, like, oh, do you have anything that's for women who are already in a relationship? Now I do. Now is your time to shine. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon.